Bibliophiles of the internet, my name's Adriana, and today I'm here to finally share the best books I read in 2018. If you've been around for the past 3 years, you know how this goes. I don't pick and choose my favorites or break them up into categories. I list every single one of my favorite books in chronological order, and instead of talking about the synopsis, the characters, or the central topics, I just give a sentence or two about what I personally took away from each book. Of course, these are not the only amazing books I read this year, but they do stand out the most. So without any further ado, let's get into this. In Other Lands by Rees Brennan. Because we have to dedicate ourselves to learning the language of strangers, to commit ourselves to growth by continuing to reach out to those we don't yet understand. Love, Sugar, Magic, A Dash of Trouble by Meriano. Because our problems feel the heaviest when we assume that we have to carry them by ourselves. The How to Train Your Dragon series by Cressida Cowell. To know yourself, to know your own abilities, to refuse to force yourself into expectations that just don't fit is nothing short of an incredible feat. The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Because true power is not something that can be granted, it's something that you must define and seize for yourself. The Giant Days comic series. Because there's a profound sense of healing and almost restorative magic to be found in a truly wonderful group of friends. Let's Talk About Love by Kann. Because asexual and dispassionate are not interchangeable words. Different people find fulfillment through different means, and there can only be value in that. The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. Because it's terrifying to pick apart your life and realize that you don't care about the things you were taught to care about, that the expectations put upon you require you to be someone that you're not. But it takes strength to clear all of that away and choose to love what you find beneath. Circe by Madeline Miller. Because affording someone dignity boils down to sitting with that person, understanding that they are both complete and imperfect, and recognizing that everything they've been through matters. Burial Rites by Hannah Kent. Because sometimes the only thing left is to allow people to tell their own stories in their own time on their own terms. Drumroll Please by Lisa Jenn Bigelow. Because we all owe ourselves the permission to go out into the world and find our own sound. Running with Lions by Julian Winters. Because sometimes it feels impossible to know exactly what we want out of our lives, but what anchors us is the people we know we want to be by our side as we figure it out. The Prince and the Dressmaker by Jenn Wang. Because the truest way to express ourselves is without conditions, qualifications, or limits placed upon our personhood and its importance. Peter Darling by Chant. Because safe spaces are no longer safe if they don't allow you to evolve and manifest your most authentic self. Wild Beauty by Maurene McLemore. Because burying the history, trauma, and pain we've experienced in our lives does not relieve us from being complicit. Front Desk by Kelly Yang. Because in some ways it's very easy to turn our backs on people who need our help, but there are so many more opportunities to change the landscape of our lives when we band together and find ways to cooperate. The Way You Make Me Feel by Maurene. Because it's tempting to take the easy route, to not take anything seriously and never feel disappointment. But going out of your way to discover what is real and true and worth protecting is worth every single risk. The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. Because in life there are no prerequisites for love, humanity, compassion, and respect. The Trouble by Daria Defore. Because it's so much more important to form relationships based on what we share rather than despairing over the ways we are different. I'm Still Here by Austin Channing Brown. Because the antithesis of oppression is opportunity and creation, giving people the power they need to make meaningful change. Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. Because it can take a lifetime of being devalued, minimized, ignored, and hurt to know exactly what you are worth and to give yourself the strength to never again sell yourself short. The Weight of Feathers by Maurene McLemore. Because the predetermined limitations other people put on your life quickly cease to have meaning the second you learn how to love yourself and your differences. The House of Impossible Beauties by Cassara. Because sometimes you have no choice but to reflect back the love, recognition, and dignity the world refuses to yield up. The Adventure Zone, Here There Be Gerblins by the McElroys. Because when you don't know what you're supposed to do, it's always safest to act in the interest of optimism and hope. The Air You Breathe by Francis de Pontes Peebles. Because everything changes. Times change, relationships change, styles change, the roles we regulate ourselves to change, and so too do the bearings of our choices evolve as years pass. Marcos Vega Doesn't Speak Spanish by Pablo Cartaya. Because you can't go looking for validation or acceptance from people who don't understand or value your personhood and its inherent importance. Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado. Because the monstrous pressure to negotiate away your control, your privacy, your feelings, your body, the very space that you occupy, can only lead to a miserable existence. Blanca y Roja by Anna Marie McLemore. Because there is power in disregarding every single thing you've ever been taught to fear and choosing for yourself, no matter the choice. Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones. Because to live is to outline and retrace the holy spaces of our lives, and only by protecting them fiercely can we discover our ability to go to places we never could have imagined we would inhabit. Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse. Because being a hero is not about being perfect. It's trying your best to keep the things you value most and the people you love safe in an unsafe world. This Accident of Being Lost by Leanne Beresamosake Simpson. Because the very makeup of the world itself is changed because we love and because we exist. Check Please by Ngozi Ukazu. Because exactly the person you are in your entirety with absolutely nothing held back is someone who deserves space in this world. Ivy Aberdeen's Letter to the World by Ashley Herring Blake. Because you are allowed to be curious, to interrogate what makes up the pieces of your life, and it's okay to not have all the answers yet. Green Glass House by Kate Milford. Because the essence of who we are and the stuff we're made of comes from the choices we make. Smoke Gets in Your Eyes by Caitlin Doty. Because ignorance and disconnect are not forms of power. How we feel about death, mortality, and every detail that entails are choices that we get to make for ourselves. And finally, The Proposal by Jasmine Guillory. Simply put, you'll never let anyone in if you make a habit out of shutting everything and everyone out. So there you have it, those are all my favorite books from 2018. And if you could recommend one book from this past year that was your absolute favorite, let me know what it would be in the comments. But that's everything I had for this best of the year wrap up today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you on the flip side of the page.